If you are one of those ones who thought the last episode was too Jewel centric, well, you're in for a treat here. Hello, everyone. Terrence here with Hollywood Already Did It. If you haven't already, go ahead, like, share, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, ring that bell below. Anytime we have something, you will be among the first to know. As you can see, this is not my normal recording place. Holidays, vacation, moving around. It's also why this is a few days behind because I have been spending time with family, as I hope all of you are as well. Episode 2 of Season 2 of Silos here is called Order. Um, First episode I loved, but I know that there are some people who had some problems with the fact that it was slow moving, very character driven, and nothing but jewels. And I think the point of that episode was to sort of establish to Juliet how much of a badass she is, how good she can be in her element. We saw in that first season where she spent a lot of her time being the sheriff, which she really didn't want that position when she wanted nothing to do with that. This showed, hey, she is a badass. You put her in this element, she can figure her way out of anything. And I also think it does an overall job of saying, hey, when push comes to shove, all these elements, everything going against her, the one person that might be able to make it out of this situation based on her acumen and her brain and what she knows with engineering, Juliet Nichols. That's what that episode was about. And so we saw none of her original Silo 18 in that first episode. We get it all in droves in this episode. A lot of characters to sort of catch up with, and I think that's if there's nothing that I can say about this episode, because it's only 41 minutes, is that they shove in a lot of characters that you may have forgotten if you didn't do a quick rewatch of season 1 right away. I'm going to try to help you out and see if we can connect all the pieces. Episode 2 begins with Bernard, who has gone to his vault to sort of watch the rest of the feed of what was happening with Juliet's visor as she has gone over the hill. Everybody else in the silo has seen Juliet go over the hill, but he's the only one who's seen what she sees on the other side. And so he's seeing this video of her going to what we believe, I don't know if they actually labeled the numbers or if I saw numbers anywhere, but what we're referring to as Silo 17. We see her go to that and see all these bodies thrown all over the place. And Bernard sees that. He sees the utter devastation that has occurred with people sort of revolting against that silo. He doesn't want any parts of that here. So he immediately opens up his book, which is called Order. The Order. It's basically their Bible, which I think this episode, if nothing else, has a lot of parallels to saying how both a form of religion and a form of politics has sort of put their thumb on each of these silos. It helps, those two constants are what helps keep people in place. And it's a very fitting parallel to what's happening or what happens in real world when you lead or rule off of fear. If you can keep people fearful, they will sort of just fall in line. That's what this whole silo is about. And you see a lot of that happening in this episode. But he opens up the Bible, the Order book, turns to a passage that says, hey, what happens if a cleaning fails? And it says, if a cleaning fails, I'm paraphrasing, but if a cleaning fails, war is imminent, or war is coming. Prepare for war. Then the alarm starts going off, and he starts making his way out into the main area of the silo, comes out of his vault, comes out, goes out. Alarms are going off. Bedlam has begun. People are going crazy all over the place. It's a mess. It is a mess. And so he runs into Sims, who says, hey, I've been looking for you. I set off the alarms. These people are losing their minds out here. They all saw and witnessed Juliet going over the hill. What are we going to do? Now, mind you, at the end of the last episode, Sims' whole thing was to sort of be Bernard's shadow. He wants to be his number 2, be right there with him and make all of these decisions with him. Bernard has done his best to sort of keep Sims at bay and has felt that he is not the best person to be his shadow. In this, though, Bernard is still using him as sort of a person that he can sort of use and trust enough to get the jobs, the things that he facilitates done. So he tells him, hey, put an 8 p.m. curfew into place. I don't want any of these people going out and getting more agitated beyond a certain time. We need to sort of put in a decree, 8 p.m. All the deputies and what now report directly to you, at least until this is cleaned up. They report to you. They can go back to the sheriff afterwards, but for now, they are with you. And then he asks specifically to keep an eye on Juliet's father, Dr. Nichols. Don't rattle him, don't shake him, don't disturb him, but just keep an eye to see who he talks to and who talks to him. I just want to know what's going on with him. Sims is like, hey, the whole point of sending Juliet out to clean was to avoid this. See, their whole thought was this. If we send Juliet out, even if we say that she says she wants to go outside, we send Juliet outside, she's going to die. We don't have to worry about this. People are going to see she's going to go out there and fail, and they're going to sort of fall back into line. We won't have to worry about this. They never expected that she would make it over the hill and thus create this sort of gaping hole in the psyche of the people. They're like, wait, there's a world that we could exist outside of this. I want to see what's on the other side of that hill. And that's sort of what starts happening. People start speaking and talking like, hey, well, if she made it out, is she still alive? Even if she's not, what's on the other side of that hill? Like, do we have an option to leave here? Why don't we figure out what we can do to do that? So this groundswell just starts happening within the silo. And Sims mentioned like, hey, talks of a rebellion have begun, and we need to suss that out and quench that fire now before it gets out of hand. Sims like, I don't know what happened or what helped her shoot, and Bernard's like, I know what happened. I'm well aware of what happened. In fact, I need you to go down and locate these two people. He gives them a paper with 2 names on it. We find out later that it's McLean who helped suit up Juliet, and then Martha, who was the one responsible for getting the tape to McLean and sort of giving her that note to say, hey, this is what you need to do. These new deputies, I think Hank is one of them, who was also a part of that Jules crew. It's getting no respect. These people are just talking over them. They're cutting out alarms so they don't hear about what's going to happen next. And so Shirley starts and Knox start having a back and forth in the middle of this whole room to sort of say, hey, I think Jules is alive. Maybe Jules is not. Let's do this in honor of Jules. And sort of Knox is speaking as if he and Jules were like, he had Jules's back. I was like, hey, she's a hero. She's doing something. She did something for us. We need to do this for Jules. And Shirley's like, hold on, real quick. You turned her in. And Knox like, yes, I did. Because if I didn't, these folks would have messed us up and killed us. But now that Jules has done this and we see what's happening on the other side, we need to take a stand for ourselves. It's clear that there is a divide. While they probably both have the same sort of idea, there's a divide between Knox and Shirley in the way that they want to approach this. Neither of that is here or there, because Martha comes in and hoses them down. It's like, yeah, all of that, shut up about it. We need to get back to work, and we need to go back and do our normal everyday things. We see, this is the only time that we see him, and we see a shot of Dr. Nichols, Jules' dad, sitting in the main room where the main video feed was, and he's just staring there. He hasn't stopped looking there. But like with Martha saying, everybody has to go back and continue their jobs. The silo must continue on. Everybody sort of has a piece and a purpose and a place here. His job is to be the caretaker to newborn babies and deliver babies. And so a nurse comes and is like, hey, I need your help. This baby won't shut up. I need you to come do your thing. And he gets up in sort of a fog, and he goes up there and does what he's supposed to do. You know, he handles that baby, gets him to calm down. But it is very much that the world that anybody knew hours ago is no longer the same. They may still be doing their jobs, but their mind has been opened up to a world of possibilities that they can no longer close. And so it is up to Bernard and Sims and what we learn to be the judge to sort of try to do their best to sort of change course and get people to not see what they thought they saw. Sims goes to Billings and tells him that, hey, right now the deputies are going to report to me, the High Judiciary. Billings like, cool. Is there anything else that Bernard's just going to circumvent with the pact? It's like, we're just going to do our own thing and none of this matters. Billings is really starting to question things. Like, none of this makes sense. And he's like, if there's anything else that we're going to ignore about the pact, let me know. Like, am I supposed to still do a report? And Sims like, yeah, still do your report. It's that point that Billings asks him, okay, cool. I need a statement from you. Like, exactly, can you tell me exactly what happened when Jules said, I want to go outside? Sims gives some BS story, talks about how he took her to the like planting area to sort of get an answer out of her. She said she wanted to go outside, then she ran, blah blah blah, so on and so forth. A lot of BS to the point where Billings calls him out. I was like, well, I just have a question. If Jules' whole plan was to go outside, if she desired to go outside, why, after she said, I want to go outside, she then ran from you? Fair point. Sim's best response to that is like, I don't know. She just did. Not an answer, but clearly Billings can continue to tell that these people are continuing to blow smoke up his ass. And it would be interesting to see how quickly he stands up for himself to kind of be like, yeah, this ain't what I signed up for. And he sort of helps. It's going to be interesting to see where he falls in the line with the rebellion. Shirley and Martha sort of have a discussion about whether or not Jules is alive. Martha's like, no, she just, that suit ran out of air. There's no way that she's alive. And Shirley's like, well, there's a chance. That, I believe it's the tape. She assesses and puts together that the tape is what sort of helped her get out of that. Martha's like trying to shut that down. But before they can really get into it, Hank comes in, interrupts, and just has to take Martha up to holding because she is one of the two people that Bernard has asked for. So that he has to do the whole pomp and circumstance, put cuffs on her, and drag her up and up the silo all the way up to put her in a holding cell until they can have a conversation. Because the whole point of everything is right now, Bernard is planning to have a big speech to sort of calm everybody down and give them some information as to exactly how this could have occurred. We then pick up with Judge Meadows, who, as we recall, is a drunk and a puppet for Bernard. Like that, what we learned pretty much throughout the entire last season is that Jules is trying to get things and information to the judge to sort of help and get on her side, and come to find out that the judge is a big pawn in all of this. So she's still getting her drink on until someone comes and tells her that, hey, Juliet got over the hill. At that point, sort of a revelation kind of comes to her, a sense of purpose. The moment you can actually see it in her eyes, the moment where she's like, oh, what? I've been living in this rat race this whole time, and now there's a possibility of something else. So she stops drinking, like right then and there. Like, I'm going to pour this liquor out. I'm done. I'm done with it. I got something to live for, or at least to attempt to live for. Bernard comes to see her and says, hey, I'm about to go give a speech to sort of try and calm everybody down, put everybody at ease. And I think it would go a long way if you were standing behind me. So I'm asking you to stand behind me. She's like, well, you're asking me, not telling me. And he's like, well, I felt like, considering all that's going on, and you know what this is going to sort of mean for us, I shouldn't have to ask you. You just know what this is. She asks, how did Juliet get over the hill? She assesses that it was the tape and that Juliet had the tape. And Bernard says, my mistake was not sending her to the mine when she originally stole the tape. But he then informs her, and he's the only person that he's told this. He's like, I saw what happened on the other side of the silo. So here's the thing about Bernard. He is actively not trying to tell everybody everything because he doesn't want to cause mass hysteria, but he also is, in a way, trying to protect the people there. He knows that if they don't have this tape, they're going to go out there and they're just going to all die. And even if they do have the tape, who knows how far they can get. He himself is living in fear of what could happen, and is thus putting that fear on everybody else. And he wants this world to live and prosper in itself instead of trying to do everything to sort of go outside. He doesn't see why anybody wants to go outside when what's happening here is so good. It's good for him. It's not good for everybody else. And you can see that Meadows, who's willing to do what it is we learn to help Bernard, but she still doesn't feel like what's happening in that silo is the best for her going forward. But Judge Meadows says the only way that I'm going to help you is if you give me this hot air balloon scenario. She basically akins herself to the Wizard in the Wizard of Oz, who was like a puppet. It's like people thought the wizard was this grand person. He wasn't. They found out, and then he just wanted to escape on a hot air balloon. I want that for myself because I'm the puppet. It's like, if you can't give me that Wizard of Oz hot air balloon, then I'm going to need you to go F off. There is a piece just to say I don't trust Knox in whatever side that he's sort of developing, but he goes to go visit a person in mechanical and sort of cash in some favors. One of the favors is, hey, if anybody comes down here asking for weapons to be made, don't make them for them. And then the second one we don't hear, which for me, I would assume, for me, I think he's like, well, make weapons for me. Don't make weapons for everybody else, but go ahead and make them for me. But we don't get to see in this episode what that second favor is. But we shall see. Once both McLean and Martha are in the holding cell, McLean has sort of come up with the revelation that she should just drop on the sword. She's like, hey, put everything on me. This shouldn't be on you. I'm the one. They're going to put together that I'm the one who put in and surrounded her suit with this new tape. They won't even have to know that it is you. And Martha's like, hold on. Let's at least wait it out to see what it is that they know. Let's let them figure it out. We don't want to give them any information that they don't have. McLean's like, they're going to kill us. And if we wait, they're going to kill us both. Martha's like, well, cool. If that's what they're going to do, then that's what they're going to do. At least we will be together when they do it. Now, they are not aware that they're being recorded. Like, all of that's on tape. And so they are openly admitting to what they have done, and it's on tape, but it doesn't quite come to bite them in the ass yet. But just know that everything here was recorded. So it's time for the big speech. Bernard arrives to his podium to give the speech, and he sees that the judge is there. And he kind of is like, okay, cool. And he goes to give this big grandiose speech. He says that Jules chose to go outside and chose not to clean. To which someone yells out that she's a traitor, which then Bernard retorts, shuts that down, and says, no, she was not a traitor, she was a hero. Saying that while we may not have agreed, she's a fighter and a hero, and I respected her. He's doing his best to sort of hedge all the bets, because if he leaned into the fact that she's a traitor, then you're going to sort of galvanize one group of people. You don't want to upset those folks. Then another person yells out and says that she's alive, to which point he immediately shuts that down and has a retort for that to say, no, I wish that were true, but she died a hero to the silo. To which someone yells, it's impossible. And Bernard immediately comes back to say, hey, do you want to listen to these people who are yelling out things, or do you want to listen to why I think Jules is a hero? It's in this moment, and we learn later that was the case, but it's at this moment that I'm like, these responses are already canned, already sort of handmade. This isn't on the up and up. Those folks were placed there to make those statements because he had an usual retort for each of them. If he was a little bit more frazzled in them, then I would have been like, okay, this is off the cuff, and he doesn't know what the hell is happening on. This is clearly rehearsed. But what he gives is a pretty decent, it's bull, but it's a pretty decent one. He says, before Jules went out to clean, after she asked, I asked her, hey, there's this new tape that we're trying to try out. Would you be the guinea pig, if you will, since you're going out anyway? Would you be the guinea pig to put this tape on? And she agreed courageously. And her trip over the hill proved that our tape is becoming better, and that we are on our way to becoming a better society, and maybe a possibly someday, that's the big word, someday, going over the hill and leaving this silo. We will continue to find ways to make things better, and we will hopefully one day achieve that. And then the judge comes and backs him up after she kind of sees that this BS is sort of working and galvanizing folks. She's like, all right, real quick then, based on this historic moment in history, we're going to give 5 credits to every household to celebrate this new development. This is something that governments do quite a bit. I'm going to give you just a little to satiate your brain, then hopefully you forget about this, and we can kind of go on back to the status quo. It's happened before with like stimulus checks and whatnot. Like, cool, your life is screwed, but if I give you this money a little bit here, you're going to forget about this and know just like, hey, these are the guys who gave me money, or these are the guys who gave me 5 credits, so I'm going to go ahead and go with them. That's what they're hoping happens. The problem is all of these people saw this with their own eyes, and so it's a little harder to sort of just cut that head off and expect this to sort of go away. We see a part where Sims does pay off the few folks that were from detention to be the folks that were speaking out at this rally. So it was clear that all of this was sort of a setup and sort of used to make this look a little bit better than it does. The speech, that is. So then we see a moment where further down in this, where the speech is happening, Shirley starts saying, "Hey, no, this is all bull. The tape, we had the tape the whole time. We learned about the tape. Martha gave the tape to McLean. They put it around the suit. We knew what was going on. This has nothing to do with them. They had no clue. They're not in on this." And then an armed guard comes to sort of shut that down, and Knox sort of protects and stops that from happening. Hank comes as well, sort of say, "Hey, no, she's fine. She's important to this. They need her down here, so we can't just get rid of her." Knox says, "Cool, let's talk." And Shirley's like, "I don't got nothing to say to you." And she sort of just breaks off. So it's clear that Knox is trying to do something. What that is, who knows? But Shirley, until she gets out of her own way, because she just has a blind trust and faith, which is some of the reason why they showed us that stuff in the engineering episode, with Jules, that she's not listening to anybody else outside of, hey, this is the way that everything needs to sort of happen. Bernard and Sims meet again, just for sort of Bernard to like, "Thank you for the traders, good job with them." And Sims like, "Hey, real quick, just want to remind you that I can be your shadow." And Bernard's like, "Let's not talk about this right now. Like, this speech, what I just gave, didn't do diddly squat. In 2 days, these folks are going to be right back at our throats, and none of this is going to matter. So I need to not go violate our curfew, and I need to go home. You should do the same." And as he's making his way home, he makes a stop. As he's making his way home, he starts seeing JL signs all around, like JL signatures, which we learn means Juliet lives. Furthering and continuing his fear for what's about to happen. A rebellion is near. And so the video that he saw at the very beginning with all those people sort of uprising and coming out, he is in fear that that is about to occur here with them. Hank goes back to the cell and releases Martha and McLean. He's like, "Cool, you guys are free to go." The mayor just said that he's the one that gave Juliet the tape, so you guys are all good, which we know is BS, which we know those cameras caught is BS, but they now have the two of them in sort of a compromised position in that we have this tape. We know what you are. We can own you. So this is going to come back and bite them at some point in time because we put you together. You guys talked about it. We have it on tape, but we're going to let you feel comfortable and get out. It's definitely going to rear its head at some point in time. Shirley is with a group of folks trying to start a revolution, but Knox had put a spy on them to sort of follow them and find them. And the spy is actually was Jules' shadow. And he's like, "Look, I don't care what Knox is telling me to do. I want to be with y'all. So whatever y'all got going on, put me in the mix." Martha follows him, was like, "Y'all got this idiot spying on you and y'all trying to hide and stuff. Like, this is easy to find. You guys are going to get caught and killed immediately. Also, stop talking about the tape. Stop talking about the tape and stop putting my name in there on the tape. Like, cut it out. You need to do this smarter than what you're doing." And Shirley's like, "Okay, well, are you in or are you out?" And we get a roundabout way that Martha's like, "All right, let's do this. I'm a part of this now." Sims goes home to his wife and sort of decompresses about how he's not Bernard's shadow. And is pushing for him to be the shadow as well. It's like, "Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I feel like he's got somebody else in place or in mind besides me, but he's not telling me things." The speech that he gave, had no clue about it. Like, I am being told just enough to sort of put me off to a path, but not enough to give me any information to actually be his right hand person. And he's starting to question the history that exists between Bernard and Meadows, which his wife knows a little bit about how long they've sort of known each other previously. But he's right. Bernard goes to see Meadows and thank her for her endorsement. And then he's like, "Well, when I left you, it didn't seem like you were joining my side. So why now?" And Meadows is like, "Well, I always didn't think you were much of a politician. But after that speech today, I'm starting to think that maybe you have a little bit of it in you." like, I see some promise there. And I just like, I'm going to assess that those hecklers were paid folks. Like, yeah, I couldn't leave it up to chance that no one did say something and whatnot. And he's like, I wanted to. The story is ludicrous. They both know and agree that the story is absolutely insane that he just delivered. But I wanted to sort of put eggs on both sides so that nobody really felt that they were being lied to. Um, People all saw what they saw. They saw what was a tantamount to a miracle. And so I can't tell them that they didn't see that miracle. But what I can tell them is that two things can be true. And some are going to buy it and some are not. But um, now the information that they have is not going to be so easily able to be disproved. And so that just buys them at least a little bit more time to sort of figure out what to do next. And if all those fails, we can just rely on brute force. To which Meadows like brute force is not always going to be the answer. Brute works for a while, but you have to give people something to believe in. Again, this sort of just goes back to Bible, religion, and politics. How it's sort of these institutions are sort of put into place to sort of give everybody a moral compass, but b something to sort of stay on brand, if you will. And if you don't, then you buck the system. You can cause a rebellion. You can cause whatever. Um, they need to give these folks a little bit more hope so that they can believe in, and not the hope of a rebellion, a hope of like, hey, this is something that I can believe in so that I can stay here. Um, Bernard's like, look, I have tried to find a new shadow. I thought I even went so far as to having somebody. I don't. You are that shadow, and I need you to be that person. Meadow then pours out all of her liquor in front of Bernard. Says, "Look, he told her earlier. She told him earlier, I stopped drinking today." But she says, "Look, I've never been more level-headed, and clear-headed in my entire last 24 years." Um, she says, "Like, I will help you, Bernard. Like, I will do what it is. I will help you, but I need you to do me a favor. I need you to find me some of that good tape, and I need you to put it aside. Put it aside for me. And once this crisis is over, I need to have that tape because I want my freedom. You can't give me that hot air balloon just because we don't have it. That's just not the way this is set up. But your politics, what you've just gotten behind, I believe in it enough that you can get me the hell out of this silo. And so I'm telling you this now. I want what Juliet Nichols had today. I want to go out." And that's how the episode ends. You can just see Bernard's look of his face because obviously, by law, when someone says, "I want to go out," they need to be heading out. But right now is not the time to be sending anybody else outside that silo, especially not the person that he wants to have back her up. He can't let her out now, so now he has to sort of play this game like, eventually I do have to put you out because you asked for it, but I can't, not now. And so it's going to be interesting to see if he does sort of play this game to say, hey, I'm going to give you that tape, and if he can do it and keep her on that string enough before Sims finds out what's going on, because Sims is going to be digging into this pretty heavily. But this was a real good episode to sort of build back up the life and let us know what's happening on 18 while we have Jules sort of isolated in what's happening in Silo 17. I do hope that future episodes, I don't know how I want this. I don't know if I want a full one episode for one and one episode for two, because that's going to get not hard to follow, but hard to invest into either one if we're spending so much time apart from the other. I do hope maybe they'll do half and half. If it's a 50 or 45-minute episode, give 30 to one, 25 to the other. Because I don't know if you can go another couple episodes without telling the other side of the story. But yeah, there's a rebellion building. And hopefully, again, like I said in the last episode, I think it's a matter of Jules getting back to them fast enough before all of those folks do come out. And so it's going to be interesting to see what lengths Bernard goes to keep them in. And then when Jules comes back, she's going to have to sort of almost side with Bernard a little bit. Like, hey, don't leave. Because stuff is crazy out there. It is inhabitable unless we all have tape. And we don't all have tape. There's not enough tape in the world for all of you. So unless there's something else that's happening in another place, that can sort of manufacture this in a faster spot. But yeah, really great episode. I think the biggest thing that I love about Silo is that no two episodes feel the same. And I feel like this has multiple genres. I think a lot of that first season has some crime stuff and figuring out things and hidden conspiracies. And this first one was a survival episode for the engineer. This one's a rebellion uprising start piece. So, but they all feel contained within the world of Silo. And I think that's a fascinating, if that the books do that, bravo, but that's a fascinating thing to sort of have within television. What did you guys think about this episode called Order? Go ahead and leave your thoughts and comments in the comments below. If you haven't already, you can follow us on Twitter at HollywoodADI. You can hit us up on email at HollywoodAlreadyDidIt@gmail.com. We also have a podcast with the same name. That's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere the place podcasts, we're there. The next episode of Silo should be up in time. That's Black Friday, so I have a lot of time off that day. And then I'm hoping to get Dune, at least the first two episodes, thoughts of Dune up relatively soon. But like always, I got my ticket. You got yours.